Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Andy and I'm the Faculty of Arts student recruiter here for the University of Alberta. For today, we are going to be going over the registration process for new admits to the Faculty of Arts. For today's registration workshop, we are going to be going over the steps after you apply to ensure that you are good to actually register in your classes come your enrollment date. We will be going over understanding your degree as well as your program requirements, setting up your first year enrollment just for some examples. We will discuss Bear Tracks and My Schedule Builder, which is where you will go and actually build your schedule and enroll in your classes. And then we will conclude with some important dates as well as some ways to contact us. So after you apply, in order to be good to register in your courses, you must first accept your offer and pay the non-refundable tuition deposit. If you are a domestic student, Canadian citizen, or permanent resident, your tuition deposit will be $500. If you're an international student, your tuition deposit will be $5,000. It can take up to 3 business days for your payment to process before you have functionality in Bear Tracks. So in order to avoid delays, ensure you allow enough time for the payment to process prior to attending a registration workshop or registering in your courses. Essentially, if you want to register in your classes, you must accept your offer and pay your non-refundable tuition deposit, and please give yourself some time between doing this and actually enrolling in your courses because it can take some time for the system to register that you have taken these steps. We will now discuss some of the foundations of your degree so that you can understand what exactly your degree entails and how to kind of navigate building your schedule to ensure that you are meeting all of your degree requirements. The first thing that we will discuss is the credit system. So university courses are assigned credit hours or unit of course weight or credits. All of these things mean the same thing. And essentially it just means that your courses are worth a certain amount of credits that go towards your degree. Half your courses, so something you took in, let's say, the fall semester or the winter semester, is worth 3 credits or units and they run for 1 term. Full year courses, which are not commonly seen in the Faculty of Arts, but if you ever do see one, they are courses that go from fall as well as into the winter semester, and they are worth 6 credits or units, and they run for those 2 terms. But for the most part, you will be seeing courses that are worth 3 credits, as this is kind of the standard for most Faculty of Arts courses. Terms. So for the University of Alberta, we have 4 official terms with 2 main terms. Those 2 terms being our fall and winter. Fall runs from September to December. Winter runs from January to April. And then spring and summer are our secondary semesters where you can take more condensed courses. And those run for shorter amounts of time, May to June and July to August. During fall and winter, you can take a maximum of 5 courses per semester. So you could do 5 and 5. This will equate to 10 courses in a year. And that equates to 15 units per semester, or 30 credits for the whole year. We will now discuss the common requirements that are essentially mandatory for all Faculty of Arts students. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, every student within the Faculty of Arts must complete 120 credits, with a minimum of 63 credits being from arts. This is because in order to have a Bachelor of Arts degree, you must have just over half of the majority of your credits being from the arts. Otherwise, if you had more than half from another faculty, let's say science, that would mean you had a Bachelor of Science degree rather than a Bachelor of Arts. Within those credits, you must complete 3 credits in a junior English or writer studies course. This is compulsory because every student must know how to write academically at the university level, and these intro-level courses will introduce you into basically the process of doing that and ensuring that you are good to write at a certain level for your higher level courses. In addition, you must take 2 courses in the same language that is not English. This is also known as the LOE requirement. There are some programs that are exempt from having to do this, and also if you have language courses from high school or from other post-secondary institutions, you may not have to complete this, but for the most part, most students will have to do 2 courses in the same language that is not English. In addition, we also require students to take some breadth courses, and that comes in the form of non-arts classes. So these are 2 courses that are not offered by the Faculty of Arts: Native Studies, Interdisciplinary Arts, or Augustana Arts courses. Anything outside of those will satisfy these 2 courses or 6 credits in non-arts. We will now discuss your major/minor requirements. So every degree is required to have a major designated upon graduation. It is your primary area of study in degree program, and you have to take a minimum of 30 credits to a maximum of 48 credits at the senior level. Senior level denotes 200, 300, or 400 level. 100 level classes are considered junior level. So in order to meet this minimum of 30 credits to 48 credits, it has to be at the 200, 300, or 400 level to satisfy the major requirements. Some programs, if you are in, let's say, a Bachelor of Criminology, you don't necessarily have a major because your degree, the Bachelor of Arts in Criminology, is your major, but if you're in the generalist degree program or in honors, you must choose a major, whether it be psychology, sociology, classics, English, whatever it may be. You must have a major designated upon graduation. Minors are secondary areas of study that you may choose as an option to tack onto your degree. You can have multiple minors. You can have minors from faculties outside of arts. For example, you could do a minor in science, native studies, or business. And because they are secondary areas of study, you do not have to take as many classes. You need a minimum of 12 credits to a maximum of 42 credits at the senior level, which is significantly lower than what you need in a major area of study. Options and electives. So options and electives are courses outside of your common, major, or minor requirements. So essentially any class that you take that does not satisfy the common or major or minor requirements of your degree program, these can count towards options or electives. Now, for the most part, with electives, people will choose typically courses within their faculty. However, you can use courses outside of the Faculty of Arts should you choose. You may take a maximum of 18 credits outside of arts or science to count towards your options or electives, and you may also complete up to a maximum of 48 credits or 16 courses at the 100 level to count towards this as well. For the duration of your degree, most undergraduate or bachelor degrees are designed to be completed in 4 years. However, you may have some flexibility to extend your degree over a longer period of time, reducing your course load per semester or per year, or by completing the Arts Work Experience program will extend the length of time you spend completing your degree. Full-time course load can range from 3 to 5 courses per term, so that's 9 to 15 credits. Part-time course load can range from 1 to 2 courses per term. Now, ultimately, the duration of your degree is dependent on a variety of factors. Some of you will be enrolled in programs where you have very strict course restrictions in the sense that you have to take a certain amount of courses every year, and therefore you may be expected to complete your degree in 4 years because that is the nature of your program. So ultimately, there is a lot of flexibility in terms of the duration of your degree. However, typically, most students complete their degree in 4 years. This picture here just showcases sort of what the typical 4-year trajectory would look like. This is taking into account not taking spring and summer courses and doing the max full-time course load every fall and winter semester over the course of 4 years. So if you're someone that wants your spring and summers off to work or travel or whatever it may be, and you want to do all of your coursework during fall and winter, and you want to be on track to graduate in 4 years, this would be how you would sort of set up your schedule in the sense of how many courses you take per year/semester. Certificates are a great thing to look at when registering in classes, as these are micro-credentials that you could tack onto your degree upon graduation. You will get a separate piece of parchment upon graduating, and essentially they are great ways to make yourself stand out and showcase that you not only have a degree from the University of Alberta, but you also have a certificate in a very specific field, such as the ones that we showcase here. These are all of our art certificates, and many of them have course requirements, similar to how your major or your minor has courses that you have to complete in order to satisfy it. Your certificates do as well. So if any of these certificates are of interest to you, I highly recommend you go to uab.ca/artcerts. You can click on all of these, you can figure out the requirements to complete them, and it's ultimately a good way to see if there are some courses that you have to take in order to satisfy the requirements, and you can try and start attacking those courses in your first year. Much of what we have talked about so far is overarching generalist degree requirements. We are now going to go over the steps to figure out your specific program requirements and where you should be looking to find those. So if you go to uab.ca/calendar, it should take you to the academic calendar, which I will showcase on the next page. If you went to the webpage indicated on the previous slide, you should come to something that looks like this. However, yours should now say University of Alberta Calendar 2025 to 2026. This calendar does get updated every year, and it's got the most up-to-date information pertaining to your undergraduate programs, as well as our admissions, and ultimately all things U of A. So I highly recommend that you save this webpage, you bookmark it, as it is a great reference tool when understanding your degree requirements. If we look to the left here, I have circled the undergraduate admissions as well as undergraduate programs. For the purpose of this presentation, we are going to be focusing on the undergraduate program. So if we click on that link, it'll take you to the next slide. If you clicked on that link, it should look something like this. Now we have a list of all the undergraduate programs listed by the college as well as the faculty. So because we are doing a Faculty of Arts presentation, we are going to be clicking on the Faculty of Arts underneath the College of Social Sciences and Humanities. Here you can see a list of all of our undergraduate programs, as well as our combined degree programs, as well as the certificates. So if you ever want to know your degree requirements, if you are in the Bachelor of Arts program, or if you're in Bachelor of Arts in Criminology, or a combined degree, or any of our certificates, you can click on any of these links and it'll take you to the relevant information pertaining to your degree requirements. For the purpose of this presentation, I chose to click on the Bachelor of Arts link, so you can follow along, or at this stage, you can click on any of the link that is of relevance to you. So if you are in the Bachelor of Design program, you can click that link, but just for the sake of this presentation, I chose the Generalist Bachelor of Arts. Once you click on that link, you should see a bunch of the common requirements at the top, and if you scroll down, you will come to the BA major requirements. So if you are a student that has your major declared already, this is where you can go and find all of the course requirements and degree requirements for your specific major. So you can click on whatever link is of relevance to you. For the purpose of this presentation, I chose psychology. If you click on a link, it should look something like this. And ultimately, this will tell you the requirements for your specific major. So as I said previously, I chose psychology. If we look at this, it's got the requirements for the major, and you can see here a list of courses. So you've got Psych 104, Psych 105, Psych 212, Psych 213, or Stats 151, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, this is a great reference point for you to utilize to see what courses you should be trying to enroll in. A good rule of thumb is that any 100 level course is typically something you should be trying to get into in your first year, as they are normally courses you have to take in order to take some of the higher level courses. So if you are in a major in psychology at the University of Alberta, I would suggest trying to enroll in Psych 104 as well as Psych 105, and then potentially even Psych 212, and then maybe Psych 213 or Stats 151 all within your first year, as these will set you up great to take on the higher level courses pertaining to your major. Another thing to note here is that if we look down, we can see that we have this option of 6 units from, and it gives you a list of 3 different classes. So if we refer back to what units means, so 6 units is the same thing as credits. So you need 6 credits from these 3 courses. So that means you need to take 2 of the 3 courses to satisfy the major requirements. Another really important thing to make note of while using the academic calendar is to pay attention to course prerequisites. So if you click on a course and if you read the course description, if you read through it, it should indicate a prerequisite if there is one. So if we read through Psych 239's course description, at the very end it says prerequisite Psych 105. What a prerequisite is a course that must be either registered in prior to the registration of this course, or you must have completed it prior to registering in this course. So for an example, if you wanted to take Psych 239 in your first year, you would have to take it in your winter semester after you had taken Psych 105 in your fall semester. So that is very important, as many students I find when they're trying to build their schedule, they'll try to register in courses and they won't make note of the prerequisites, and therefore they cannot take that course until you've got that course registered in prior to, or you have completed that course prior to trying to take the course. Another really important thing to pay attention to is course restrictions. So even though we are all Faculty of Arts students, there are some courses within the Faculty of Arts, as well as courses outside of the Faculty of Arts, that do have restrictions. So if we look at Art 136, Art Fundamentals, if we read the course description, it says restricted to BFA and BDes students. What that means is that if you are not in a Bachelor of Fine Arts or in the Bachelor of Design program, you cannot enroll in this course. So even though we are all within the same faculty, this is restricted to students in a very particular program because there are typically limited seats, and therefore the students that are enrolled in these programs must be given priority. Some courses will have restrictions until a certain date, and after a certain date, the remaining seats will open up to students to register in. But regardless, the big takeaway here is to pay attention to those restrictions, as many students, same thing with prerequisites, will come and say, hey, I'm not able to take this course. How come? And it's typically because they're not reading the restrictions on the course. So always make note of that and always pay attention to the prerequisites. Many students want to know if we have a place where they can browse through all of our courses to figure out what options they maybe should be taking, or what kind of, the university just has to offer in general. If you go to the website included on this slide here, it will take you to our course catalog. The course catalog is essentially where you can go and browse all the courses that we offer here at the University of Alberta. If you went to that webpage, it should look something like this. So ultimately, you can browse our courses by searching in keywords, subject, course catalog number, or by instructor. For the most part, I suggest students try utilizing the faculty links to the right side. If you click on Faculty of Arts, it'll then give you a list of all the different subjects that we offer within the arts, and then you can see what courses are offered within those particular subjects. So if you want to peruse through and see what we all have to offer at the University of Alberta, I highly recommend you check out this website. Now that we have gone over much of our degree requirements, as well as certain major requirements, program requirements, all things requirements, we're now going to start looking at some examples of what your first year can look like. Now, one thing to note is that these are just examples. You do not need to copy and paste these. However, if you do wish to copy and paste them, if you see something you're like, yes, I like that blueprint, you are more than welcome to try and replicate it. But for the most part, these are just for example purposes. For this example, I have chosen to do the max course load in both semesters, as this is what many students will do in their first year, just to kind of gauge and, try doing the full 5 course load. However, this is not something you need to replicate. This is just an example. So in your fall semester, you can do an English 100 level class, a 100 level class in your major. If you have a minor declared, you can do the intro class to that. And then you can also try and knock off the LOE requirement in both semesters. And then finally, you can have an option and elective in both semesters as well. This ultimately tackles some of your Bachelor of Arts common requirements, it attacks your major requirements, and it also tackles your minor requirements. So this is a great way if you want to do the max course load and be full-time and dedicate yourself to your studies. This is a great way to kind of set up your first year. If you have your major and minor already picked out and you know that these are kind of courses that you need to take, this is a perfectly fine example. For this example, I chose to just eliminate the option or elective. So maybe in your first year, you do not want to do the max course load and you would rather just do 4 courses per semester. That's totally fine. You are still considered a full-time student with this type of enrollment structure. So if this is something that speaks to you, this is more than acceptable as well. Lastly, for this example, I chose for in the fall semester to only do 3 courses. So maybe in your fall semester, you are kind of anxious about starting university and you think 5 courses is going to be too much. So you really want to start the ball slow and you want to gain some confidence in terms of how university coursework is and how it differs from high school. And you really just want to start slow. You can do that. So if in your fall semester you want to do 3 courses, you are still considered full-time. And then in your winter semester, you want to do maybe 4 or 5 classes after you've been like, okay, I feel like I can do this. That is more than acceptable. And again, you're still in at least 3 classes in both semesters, so you are still considered a full-time student, even though you're not doing the max course load. All this to say, make a schedule that works for you. In university, you have a lot of opportunity to kind of make a schedule that is catered to you and your interests and what works for you. So I really highly encourage you to try and find something that balances your personal needs as well as your academic requirements. We will now go over some timetabling tips that ultimately you should be keeping in mind when building your first year schedule. So we have already discussed what prerequisite classes are, and ultimately they're really important to keep in mind when building your schedule, as many students are trying to enroll in 200 level classes in their fall semester, and typically a 200 level course or 300 or 400 or any senior level course will require a certain prerequisite. So always pay attention to the prerequisites when building your schedule and try and ensure that you are taking those prerequisites in your fall semester so that you can take the next level course in your winter semester should you choose. Another thing to make note of is which classes have the fewest offerings. So some courses may not be offered all the time. They might only be offered once per year or maybe once every other year. Depends on the course. For the most part, this is not something that will really impact you in your first year, as most first year courses are offered often. However, it is something to keep in mind if you do see a course and it happens to only be offered this year. I would maybe try and prioritize that class because you don't know if it'll be offered again or if you'll have the chance to take it at some other point throughout your degree. Another really important aspect to ask yourself are earlier or later classes better for you? So ultimately with university, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of when your classes are and how you make up your schedule. So with that, I would ask you to be kind of honest if you are an early morning person or if you are someone that likes to wake up a little bit later and take like afternoon or evening classes. Whatever it may be, choose classes that try and fit with your lifestyle, as I find students that try and force themselves to either be up early or go to school late, whatever it may be, they tend to struggle more. So just be honest with the type of person you are and try and pick your classes accordingly. Lastly, which building are the classes located in? So North Campus here at the University of Alberta is quite large. It is a city within a city, and with that being said, some of the buildings can be quite far away from one another. So if you have classes that are back to back, I would make sure to check the location and then use the campus maps to see how far away they are from one another. If they are back to back, and let's say you have a class that is all the way in ECA, and then your next class is in Torrey Lecture Theatre, those are about as far away as possible from one another, and it would be kind of challenging to get to and from them within the time frame that you have between back-to-back classes. So just always pay attention to that. For the most part, this does not impact you that often. Most classes are relatively close to one another, but I would always double check the location of the buildings to ensure that you are giving yourself enough time to get to and from classes. Or you could also alternatively choose to give yourself a break in between classes and not schedule back-to-back courses. Because almost every student at the University of Alberta is required to take an junior level English or writing studies class, these classes tend to fill up very quickly. So ultimately, English 102, English 103, English 125, Writer Studies 101, Writer Studies 102, and Writer Studies 104 will all satisfy the junior level English or Writer Studies requirement. So I encourage you to try to get into one of these in your first year. However, one thing to note, because these courses do fill up quickly, it is more than acceptable to take this class in your second year. So if you struggle to get into an English or writing studies class, do not panic, as it can be tricky in your first year because many of these second years try and get into these courses because they were not successful to get into them in their first year. So if that is the case, you can always take this course in your second year. But nonetheless, you do have a lot of options of courses to choose from to satisfy this degree requirement. So I highly encourage you to try to get into one of them in your first year, and hopefully you can tick that off early on in your degree. We will now be discussing Bear Tracks. Bear Tracks is where you're going to go to actually register in your classes, enroll in them, utilize the watch list, and essentially anything course management related, you will need functionality in Bear Tracks. If you go to your Bear Tracks, it should look something like this, and as I said prior, it is where you'll go to manage your classes. You can do class search and enroll, browse our course catalog, our shopping cart function is here, your enrollment dates can be located here, watch list, drop classes, swap classes, anything pertaining to your schedule is found within Bear Tracks. And for the purpose of this presentation, we are going to be primarily fixated on the My Schedule Builder as well as the Manage Classes tiles. One of the most important things within the Manage Classes tile is your academic advisement reports. This is essentially a report that will use each student's list of registered and in-progress courses to summarize how the courses apply to that student's particular degree and outline what requirements remain outstanding. Essentially, this is a report you can use to see how the courses you are currently registered in or the ones that you have previously taken and how they apply to your degree requirements. And essentially, as you register and take courses, it will tick off the ones that you have completed, and it'll show you what you have remaining to satisfy your particular major, degree, minor, whatever it is that is compulsory to graduate. This will show you what is required of you. In order to access your academic advisement report, you will need to go to Bear Tracks. You will need to log in with your CCID and password. Once there, you will then click on the Manage Classes tile, and then you'll be able to find the Academic Requirements button there. Now, as first-year students who have not started at the University of Alberta, this may not show up quite yet. However, as you begin your studies and as you move on to your second year or third year, so on and so forth, this will start to fill up and you'll be able to utilize this function. However, if you cannot see it quite yet, do not panic. Typically, this will become available to you once you actually begin your studies or in the summer leading up to September. But nonetheless, it is a great thing to utilize, and it is something you can use in conjunction with the academic calendar to really understand like what courses you need for your degree and what you have left remaining as part of your requirements. If you click on the My Schedule Builder tile, it should ultimately look something like this. So the My Schedule Builder tool is a newly debuted functionality in Bear Tracks, and it just came out last year to assist with essentially course registration. So Ultimately, this is where you will go to build your schedule, type in your courses, find classes, and see kind of, what your first year semesters can look like. Now, for the purpose of this recording, I am not going to play this video. However, if you want to go and pause this recording and go watch this video on your own time, I highly encourage you, as it will kind of explain how we get to the next steps in the next slide. So if you want to watch this video, you can go to YouTube and type Student Registration Experience Guide, University of Alberta, and ultimately you should get to a video just like this. Alternatively, you can go to uab.ca/reg, and if you click on the Student Experience Registration Guide and watch the video tutorial, it is this same video. So I highly encourage you to pause this video and go watch this one on your own time. Once you have completed it, come back to this video and move on to the next slide. Hopefully you all took some time to watch the video from the previous slide, and after watching that video, you can now understand how we created this draft schedule. So this schedule is purely for example purposes. This is not something you need to replicate. I chose these courses purely at random. However, they are nonetheless indicative of something you could choose to do if these courses at all speak to you. But for the most part, this is just demonstrative to see like how, taking 5 courses could look in a semester at the University of Alberta. So if you notice, all the courses indicate enrolled on them. If that is the case, that means you are expected to be in attendance. You are good to go in terms of registering in that class, and it is a part of your schedule. If it does not say enrolled, that means you are not actually registered in that class. So you may need to go back, review the processes to ensure that you have registered in the course properly. But nonetheless, if it says this, you are good to go. Another thing to note is that we have 5 courses here. However, if we look at our schedule, only 3 of them are actually on the calendar. That is because if you look at the bottom, English 102 and Stats 151 are online classes with no scheduled times. So if you are taking an online class, always pay attention to this and always make sure that you are reading the syllabus and you are understanding the course structure, because even though some of your online classes may have no scheduled times, you may have certain dates where you have to meet over Zoom with your professor or your fellow peer students. Whatever the case may be, always be sure that you understand the ultimate requirements of any online course. Just because it doesn't show up on your schedule does not necessarily mean that there aren't times you are expected to meet. So for this draft schedule, it is just a reiteration of the exact same courses from the previous example, but this time we have Mondays and Thursdays off. So this is just to showcase you that, you have a lot of opportunity to make a schedule that works for you. If there are certain days where you absolutely do not want classes, or maybe you want a longer weekend or whatever it may be, you can try and do that. Obviously, there are some stipulations. There are some classes that might only be offered at a very specific time, and therefore you don't have as much flexibility. But nonetheless, I encourage you to peruse through your course configurations and really find one that works for you. Alrighty, so that about sums up our presentation. So if you need further registration help after today, you can go to uab.ca/reg101. There we have a Faculty of Arts self-guided module that goes over much of the information that was covered in this presentation. We also have our contact arcsrec@ualberta.ca, as well as the Faculty of Arts website, where you can go and find a bunch of department information or just general undergraduate student services help. So I highly encourage you to go to this website if you need any additional help after watching this recording. Important dates to take away after this presentation is that April 3rd is the opening date for registering in courses for most new admits. However, if you want to know how to figure out when you can enroll in your classes, do go to your Bear Tracks and you can find your enrollment date indicated there. April 30th is the apply for guaranteed spot in residence at uab.ca/residence. So if you want a guaranteed spot in one of our residences, April 30th is the deadline. After that, it is first come, first serve. If you are a transfer student coming to the University of Alberta, June 15th is the outstanding document deadline. So if you have courses that you still need to submit your final transcript for, June 15th is the last day to do that. August 1st is the outstanding document deadline for high school applicants. So if you are coming in from high school, August 1st is the last day to get in any official final grades. And then August 31st to September 2nd is orientation, and September 2nd is when your fall term classes begin. And at that point, you should be registered in your courses and good to go to begin your studies here at the University of Alberta. Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope that this video was informative and you all feel a little more confident in terms of course registration and ensuring that you are ready to go to enroll in your classes and set up for September. So thank you all so much for joining, and hopefully we will see you all in September. Bye now.